Hi everyone, thanks for coming out. I hope you guys are having a great conference here. Who's a first-time attendee at Ignite? All right, I am as well. I've been an MVP for a couple years. This is my first time making it out here. So for the past couple of years, I've done a lot of migrations to the cloud, including Azure SQL Databases. And my goal for being here this week is to help as many people as possible to make a successful migration, as I've seen quite a few not go so well. So if I lump in a lot of unsuccessful attempts, it usually would come down to one of these four things. So for example, planning. I've actually been in a scenario where a director of IT called me and said, my DBA loaded Management Studio, and he right-clicked on the management wizard and tried to move our database over to Azure SQL Database, and it didn't work. Yeah. They didn't do any planning. They didn't do any planning, testing, executing. Didn't even get to the point where monitoring is relevant yet. So same thing with testing. How many people work with applications that use Visual Studio as an example? Anyone? All right, so Visual Studio has some great tools for doing load testing. So if you want to make sure that you know exactly what performance tier is best for your users, so you could do it at the cheapest level possible, you can easily do your load testing there as well. Execution is also pretty critical as well. For example, you might have a certain amount of time that you'll have to do your whole migration of a database or sets of databases. This will kind of dictate exactly how you're going to execute, which we'll talk about a little later. And then finally, once you get there, while there's a lot of great automation going on to help you, it's not 100% just set it and forget it. There are some things that you will want to monitor over time to make sure that not only you have the best experience, but you guys can save as much money as possible by doing tuning or have automating tuning help you to where maybe you can lower your tiers as well. So with that, my name's John Sterrett. I'm based out of Austin. I run the SQL user groups out there, been an MVP, and like I said, my whole goal for this week is just try to help people have a better understanding and a better roadmap for migrating. So one of the things I will share at the very end as my last slide will be a whole bunch of reference material and lessons learned to help you guys. So I hope you guys take that and use that as a tool to help you. So top 3 reasons why a lot of clients of mine end up choosing to migrate to Azure SQL databases. The first one here is a basic cost analysis. And if I get to move my mouse here, I want to cover a couple of examples of just looking at on-prem, right? So for example, one single server alone with 16 cores, about $7K per core for licensing. I'm not even including power or support here. This starts to add up, and then if you want any type of HA that's built in from an on-prem solution, you have to have at least one other server there. So you can see that this tends to kind of be a little expensive, especially if you can do some work to get it to fit in here. So for example, I've had one client where we were able to fit it into a pool there with a 250 EDTUs as well. So we know that there's opportunities to save a lot of money. Another big reason here is security. Some data hosting providers provide none, maybe a firewall if you're lucky. Straight in the box, ready for you to use. You have firewall where nobody can get in until you open up ranges or IP addresses for you. You have TLS security built in. Data in flight, so data moving from the database engine all the way to your application tiers is all encrypted. You have encryption for data at rest too for your backups and everything. You could set up auditing, and then there's even automation going on to help you with threat detection. So if anybody's trying to do any SQL hacking in through there, you can get some alerting there. This is all baked in and 100% free for you built in there. The next thing is there's features. There's a lot of ways to benefit from Azure SQL Database that's not there for other versions of SQL Server. So a couple examples here could be Azure Data Sync. Security, so we already talked a lot about security, but data masking is a perfect example. There's even a lot more there for you. Also, if you want to have high availability or you want to be able to have read replicas in different regions, within 4 clicks you could set up an active geo replica. This is a lot easier than going through and setting up AGs on-prem. There's a lot for performance baked in here. So performance insight, you have your own dashboard that you can look at and see what queries are causing your top pains and see if you can tune and fix them. We have automated tuning as well. So for example, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and maybe there's an index that can help you or a plan change. This can all be done for you, so you don't have to be woken up in the middle of the night. And of course, there's also adaptive query processing too. So how do we successfully migrate databases? So the first question you're probably wondering is, okay, what tier do I start off at? And there's a couple of tools, one that's really helpful called the Azure DTU Calculator. This will allow you to do some benchmarking on your current physical environment, get some good counters for you, do some analysis on it, and get you kind of a good starting point of understanding, okay, where would this application fit best to start off at? One thing I'd like to share is this is a great tool to help you find a starting point. This isn't your long-term best place all the time, always for your workloads here. This is where, for example, doing actual testing can help you out a lot, especially if you're able to use Visual Studio as an example to do load testing with it. So migrating your data right now, there is no backup and restore current to date right now for you to be able to move your schema and data right now. There's no detach or attach. So you have to end up moving your schema and the data, and there's a couple of different ways on how you can do this. So the first one is what's known as a BACPAC right now. So this is actually, you could do this a lot of different ways, even using Management Studio as an example, to where you can fully get the schema, all the data in one consistent file that you can use to upload. The problem with this approach is depending on how much data you have, this can take a bit of time. If you're in a scenario, for example, where you're going to actually want to do a live migration, something with little, almost no downtime, you're going to have to end up using transactional replication. So in the link at the end, I actually have a step-by-step and some best practices for replication to help you with this process if you need to do live migrations. They definitely are possible. So here's just a basic roadmap of high-level steps of what you need to do to go through successful and executing your migration, right? The first one is actually using the DMA tool to go through and do an analysis and find the fit gaps of what needs to actually change. So for example, there's features on-prem like CDC, file stream, maybe you're using database mail or SQL agent that aren't there yet until managed instances get there. So if you're someone that needs to move before that's available for you, you have to go through and implement solutions and change code to make it work for Azure SQL databases. So you could go through and do that, deploy, and then towards the very end there, you can either do the BACPAC approach, or if you need to go through with the live migration, set up and use transactional replication. So here's the easy guide, and this may seem so easy and strange, but if you really want to do this as fast as possible, the shortest cut to make this happen would be to increase your tier from the start when you do your migration. So make sure you're on premium for this, even if it looks like your workload's best for standard. And the reason why is this will greatly improve the amount of time it takes to copy that data over. Then once this is done, you can reduce it back down. And in fact, I'm even going to share a lesson from about 3 years ago when I was starting with Azure SQL databases. Here's a perfect example of moving 60 gigs around. Right, you look at the beginning, I'm at S0, which has 10 DTUs for about 6 hours. Then I realized this isn't going so well over here. So I bump it up and I double it, and we're at 20. And then you see about a day later, it looks like it finished. It never really finished, that's just me giving up, because this is just not working. So here's going through the same process, just starting off, for example, on a P1 here, where you can see it took about half a day for it to go through and complete. So seriously, if you need some throughput to move a good amount of data, and this is only 60 gigs, so I look at this as still kind of a small size footprint here. So how do we manage Azure SQL databases today? One of the biggest mistakes I see is that you don't, right? There are people that actually just migrate it there and do absolutely nothing because they assume there's nothing at all that's needed to be done. Some areas that you have to fully understand and make decisions upon is, for example, business continuity. So the fact that you actually have backups automated for you, the restores aren't physically automated, and you need to make business decisions on how much time are you willing to be down? Do we actually need geo replicas that we could fail over to, as an example, instead of just restoring due to the time it takes? You're going to have security, data movement, and probably two of my favorite areas here is performance and proactive monitoring. Because by implementing good performance here, you can actually scale down on the tiers that you're using over time by making the performance a lot better. And then I always like for all my customers to have solutions that are proactive, so they're able to actually go through, and fix things before it impacts the customer and the customer tells them about it. And there's some great things built into Azure that you can leverage from day one as well. For example, if anyone uses SQL Server today, you probably know about SQL Server agent alerts. We have the same thing out there in Azure SQL Database, where you can actually go through and monitor DTU. So if you actually wanted to change tiers, you could use T-SQL to make that happen based on certain thresholds. Same thing for going through and looking at if you want to do alerts based on maybe having more connections than are expected. All kinds of good stuff there. The next one here is Query Store. Now this has been around for quite a while, and it's been in SQL Server 2016, but the reason why this is extra special for Azure SQL Databases is this is the precursor that you have to have enabled before you could start using Query Performance Insight. So this is a monitoring solution that will let you know performance from periods of time that you can easily look at. You can give people access to the Azure portal so they don't even have to have fully access to the database to see this. And you can find exactly which queries are driving your DTUs from a performance standpoint. So really good stuff there as well. The next thing here is automatic tuning. So we actually have some features built in that can help you with performance tuning. It definitely won't get you 100% everything you ever need with tuning, but it's definitely a phenomenal great start and a great thing that can help you sleeping in the middle of the night as well. For example, on the screen here, there's a workload that I had running where I had some bad indexing, and then pretty quickly it detected and said, here's an index, and it could automatically implement this for you if you want as like. The nice thing about this is it's not like the good old data tuning advisor from back in the day. There's actually good logic built into this, so it can actually revert indexes as well. So for example, if it implements an index and then a little later it finds out maybe it shouldn't be there, it can automatically remove it for you as well. And from what I've seen in the real world, this is a pretty good, helpful tool for a lot of customers out there that everyone should start thinking about and using today. In fact, right from the gate, you can easily have this log everything so your DBA team can see it. And then after they get full confidence with it, you can just enable it by default then and have it help do a lot of the work. So they can go ahead and fight a lot of battles for you outside of that. Same thing with forcing plans. As we looked at Query Store, cases where plans can shift, this can automatically pull in and lock in the one that's best for your workloads as well. So with that, I hope that you guys have seen a lot of ways to help you with your migrations and a lot of the features that can make your lives a lot better as a data professional here. I'd like to thank you guys for coming out. And like I said, all the reference links that I have are all there at the bottom that you can grab. And if anyone has some questions, I'd love to talk to you. Thanks.